finally made it. Oh, and you can ignore that bit now, event day only. Not true. This place is back open, and this place was going to be a bit of a sticking point for me back on February 28th and March the 1st. Or so I thought, because I never came here. This station was closed, and I went off on my trip across the network, attempted to set a Guinness World Record for the fastest time to visit every MBTA Commuter Rail station. And I didn't have to do this one because it was closed. Or so I thought. Allow me to explain a bit more. So, let me cut to the chase first. Did I set the Guinness World Record? No, I didn't. Not because anyone beat me to it, but because there were some invalid things, if you like, in the record attempt. I certainly didn't do anything wrong during it. I think it's just fair to say there were things that I missed. So let me highlight first off what those things were, but also a few anomalies that I since spotted after having done the attempt as to why I think, with all due respect to them, Guinness didn't exactly get the right picture of what I was trying to do. I'll explain now. So,
here or back there? What do you want?
I'll board back there, so I just want to do a bit of filming first and I'll head on in a few minutes. Now that, by chance, was the same guard that I had from Mansfield the other day. Nice guy. Either Tom or Toby, I think his name was. Lovely guy. Anyway, that was a slightly impromptu start to this bit, but I'll get going now. I'll first off cover the bits that I neglected, if you will, on my journey. And there were a handful of things. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that in order to set an official certified world record, you've got to do things incredibly meticulously. And I was perhaps a little presumptuous in thinking that a 2-hour, 15-minute feature-length film, basically, which is what my record set turned out to be, wasn't quite the right way of doing it. I don't think it's quite right to say it wasn't enough. I'd like to think it was enough, personally, but on their account, not quite. And this is on the following virtues. I failed to appreciate that prior to starting the attempt, I needed 2 verifiable witnesses to that they are both the start and at the end of the trip. So in theory, if I was doing it all again, I would need 2 completely independent people waiting with me at Forge Park 495 to see me off, and then 2 other people, the same or different, to see me in at Wachusett the following night. And given that this was always going to be a solo project on my part, mostly because I didn't figure that there'd be anyone else out there crazy enough to want to come with me around the network for a day and a half and then some. So that was entirely my doing. On top of that, there was also a requirement to have a stopwatch going for the entire time. Now, I thought that the official logs, given that I'm a member of staff, and that's something I'm coming to in a moment, which is a bit interesting and a bit unusual, if you ask me, given the nature of this, but I won't digress for now. I needed to have a independent, constantly running clock, and I failed to set one off because I thought I could go into my work systems and find the official logs and submit the official logs of the times according to GPS the trains left and arrived at each respective station accordingly. So that was another bit where I didn't quite do things by the book, although I would have liked to have thought that GPS would have been sensible enough, but alas, it was not. And another thing, which I'm not frustrated about, because it makes sense to do this, on subway attempts before, either on the MBTA subway or other subways, there's always been people who have taken buses between certain stations. Now, for the nature of this being a commuter rail network and not the underground subway network that we operate here, I didn't think that you would need any point to do buses. So I neglected to do buses. I didn't put buses in the plan anywhere except for the one rail replacement bus that was meant to go, scheduled to go to Rockport. If you remember that, that was the only one. Gloucester to Rockport, nothing more. And that was in place of an actual service train. So no other surface transport necessary, and only afterwards did I find out that actually I could have used it if I wanted to. That though draws me to one of my main points and main gripes about this, and a shout out if I can to fellow transportation enthusiast Adam Fisher, who got hold of me after having done my attempts and let me know that there were typically provisional timings that come in place that Guinness actually set for brand new attempts on any network. So they actually set one for this, unbeknownst to me, and it wasn't set out in the guidelines itself. As far as I have seen, I could not see the timing anywhere. But I submitted to them that the estimated time to complete this was anywhere between 38 and 41 hours. Now that was giving me a bit of slack to go past that 38 hours if there was any delays en route. I thought 38 to 41 hours was perfectly sensible. I also stipulated to Guinness that I did not intend on using buses during the attempt. But then, as I said before, transpired that I could do. All the same, Guinness then came back after me having done the run, or at least I didn't see this until after the run was complete, and Guinness had put a stipulation of 36 hours on the attempt. Not 38, 36. Now, I don't know how the hell you come to that. I also was a little bit annoyed at the fact that by being an operational planner by career, it's something I've done for over a decade of my life, and I'd like to think I know what I'm doing. And suddenly I have to shave 2 hours off of a run that I believe I have made the most efficient run out of. Beats me. Now, prior to this, my now colleague, Sam, in operations planning, was actually speaking to me about this, and was, he showed me a very, very, not rushed, but a very quick outline of a run where buses could be incorporated. And even that, to my memory, didn't pass 35 hours. Now, that would be within the Guinness stipulations, according to what they told me. But that then brings me to my next point. And I'm going to quote this straight from the guidelines itself. Quote, "All train stations served by MBTA must be visited. Any tram lines are excluded from this title." Now, this is just a quick one because you tell me where the tram lines are here. None. It's a commuter rail, heavy rail network, no trams, no nothing. And also, that was subtitled as "Rules for fastest to visit all stations in an underground network," which is I appreciate, is a generic classification that Guinness have, but this is not an underground network. And here we are at Foxboro, this is not underground, and here are a few other examples where there's no underground here whatsoever, nothing. This is not a subway network, it's not underground. So let's have a look at a few more places, shall we? Okay, Dedham Corporate Centre. I can also confirm, if you look here, it is not an underground railway. Nope. North Leominster, along with Fitchburg, one of my 2 local stations, and it categorically is not an underground station. Next, I thought I'd also take you to Auburndale, a station I'm very, very familiar with, given that I have literally taken hundreds of journeys to and from this station since April 2021. And if you care to observe, the sky is here, I-90 is there, and this station is not underground. Next. Okay, also here now at Brandeis Roberts. The Brandeis part is named so for the Brandeis University, the campus of which surrounds this station. The Roberts nature of the name comes from the neighbourhood called Roberts, where this is situated, and I can also tell you that this isn't an underground station. Next, greetings also from Percy Station. Look before crossing, so I can show you quite clearly there, and I'm crossing at a station that's not an underground station. See? There you go. Next. All that honking in the distance will be that. Because I have come to Littleton Route 495 station. Off goes that train. And that's the station right there, which I can also confirm is not underground. I think that'll do. Now let me quote you this quickly and I'll carry on the train in. Quote, "It is necessary for a through train to stop at the station for the visit to count. In the event that a station is closed for long-term repairs," now note that there are at least two I can think of here, Winchester Centre and South Attleborough. "In the event that a station is closed for long-term repairs, then the station must still be visited, but the station may be both arrived at and departed from on foot or by scheduled surface public transport." So Guinness, you're telling me that in that whole 36-hour window that I'm able to get on a bus from Attleborough Station to South Attleborough Station, get off there, and then take another local bus from South Attleborough to Providence to carry my journey on, or to go from Attleborough to South Attleborough, back to Attleborough, then carry back on the train? I think that's easier said than done to me. And also, lastly, quote, "Receipts and or tickets must be obtained for all journeys and must be submitted in chronological order." I'm staff. How does that work? I'm staff. This is my ticket. This is my ticket. It's free. I can't submit. I'm not giving them this. I can't. So yeah. That, in summary, is the gripes, tribulations, if you will, as to why this didn't really pan out the way I planned. Apologies for the hasty nature of departing there. Train was about to leave, so, you know, had to get on. The one little thing I failed to neglect in that bit, right at the end, when I was trying to highlight how even if a station was not served and was closed for long-term repairs, then you still had to visit it. Now that's all well and good, and I explained how I just don't think that was a sensible thing. Perhaps for a subway network that was only a few miles wide, okay, but for a commuter rail network that spans a massive distance in comparison, then perhaps not. There is one ambiguity with that though. There are two stations, one of them being Foxboro that I was just at, and the other one that springs to mind is Plymouth Station. Because when I went on the record-setting trip, I didn't go to Plymouth because the station was closed in as much as it wasn't served. The station was closed indefinitely in 2021, but there were moves afoot to reopen the station. It was not, as far as I was aware, closed on a permanent basis. All the same, it wasn't shut for structural repairs, it was shut simply because the rider numbers at the station were too small, I guess, to warrant continuing service there. Such was the case as well at Foxboro, with the difference being at Foxboro that trains did still operate, but only on event days at Gillette Stadium, which you may have seen in the background. Good spot if you did. But I couldn't get to Foxboro on that basis because, as far as I was concerned, there was no regular service train there. Same goes for Plymouth. But to me, there was a significant amount of ambiguity as to whether or not I absolutely had to visit those stations. Am I going to try this again? Yeah, probably will. But not for a while. Not until next year at least, at some point, maybe about the same kind of time again. maybe slightly later, maybe into April or very end of March, when the weather's just a little bit better and I've got a little bit more daylight. But I've not been put off by this, in fact quite the opposite. I've been, since I went into my new role, I've been on the trains a lot more than I was able to ride them in my previous job. So I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to come out to stations and start to learn the route a bit better. And, of course, not losing sight of the fact that your generous donations allowed me to raise over $1,300 for cancer charities, both in the US and the UK, and I am incredibly grateful for that, and always will be. It was always a part of what this journey was about, and whilst I wanted to do something wacky and crazy, and would have loved to have set a world record while I was at it, that's enough for me. I'm happy with that. So rest assured, I'm still glad I did it. Very glad. So it might not have been for the world record, but I'm back on the rails again. So see me out here again sometime soon. Take care for now.